got that already hot. On this other pan, I'm gonna put my mushrooms in this other pan right here. Get that on here right here. And voila. You got my mushrooms. I'm gonna saute that up individually.
God has given it to them. So whatever it is that God has given these young people, let's ride on it.
And the reality is that's what young people need to hear. And if our church is not prepared to allow people to be their authentic selves within leadership, then you're not prepared to have young people take over the church.
God has a plan for us.
Yeah.
And if we rush it, if we make it something that he doesn't have in his sight for us, if we push it without waiting on him to guide us, we're going to end up in positions that we don't want to be in.
God is saying, you are an open book to me. I understand you. I understand your character.
Doing more of nature and pray or read the scriptures, listen to certain music, whatever that connects you with God.
Meditation is just simply put about that time with alone time with God.
But if you have to wake up at 3 a.m, honestly, and that's the only time where you will get quiet time to spend with you and the Lord, that sacrifice will not go by unrewarded.
There are some things I must remind you of. There are some things I must remind you of. And it's to go over to our website. Go over to our website at zoomhopelive.org. And there you can find a very engaging and enlightening platform. And on that platform, you'll be able to interact with us. You can view past episodes. You can view our vlogs. You can also have the contacts of our past guests. You can also book Zoom Hope Live. If you have a program that you see this ministry benefiting, you can also book us directly from the website. And while you're there, you can also go over to our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, if you're watching on YouTube, we invite you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Now, yes, here he is again, the annoying subscribe guy. If you want him to leave us alone, you have to just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And also, while you're there, hit the notification bell so you know when we are on. Now, while you're interacting with us here in this discussion, we invite you to share with us. Share with us your comments, and also feel free to ask your questions. While you engage in the chat, we also invite you to mention where you're viewing us from. That is important to us. We want to know how far Zoom Hope Live is reaching. We want to know the different parts of the world. As diverse as our panelists are, so diverse is our audience, and we need to know where you're viewing us from. Now, this week we continue in our series as we conclude this month on pursuing your purpose. Today we have four very interesting, four very informed, four very exciting panelists. And I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves to you, to tell you, the Zoom Hoop family, a little bit about themselves. So, first off, we're going to invite a young lady from right here in the Bahamas, none other than Brittany Lundy.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Brittany Lundy. I'm a college student at the University of the Bahamas, and I'm pursuing a dual degree in history and law and criminal justice. I'm 24 years old, and I attend the New Providence Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Awesome. So, Brittany, tell us a little bit more about your story. Tell us about, you know, why this topic? Why are you on Zoom Hope today? What can you offer the audience?
Well, I could offer the audience a little more advice about college life, my experience, and how to go through it and follow your purpose all the way through.
All right. Looking forward to engaging you in this lively discussion, Brittany.
Me too.
And so we're going to welcome Pastor David Salazar to Zoom Hope Live.
Hello,
Pastor
everyone.
Salazar.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. It's great to be with you each. And yeah, my name is David Salazar. I am a pastor in Washington State near Seattle. I've been here about 4 years and I serve as the youth director. Currently, I am doing a doctorate in intergenerational church. Prior to college life, I was involved in public school all my life, and since then I started an AA in public, and then from BA in theology, master's degree, and now a doctorate at Adventist universities.
Awesome. So, Pastor, what can you offer our Zoom Hope family today in this discussion?
Yeah, I think the perspective that I wish to bring, and through the questions, is probably outside of the typical responses and just the worldviews and how they interact and clash with each other, and how one can navigate those issues that one has to face in college and soon after college.
Awesome. Looking forward to the discussion, Pastor. Our next panelist is a young lady from the island of Dominica. Her name is Alicia Mills. Alicia, welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's Alika. It's a common mistake to say Alicia. So, yeah, that's one thing about me. My name is always pronounced wrong. I am a recent graduate of the University of the Southern Caribbean, based in Trinidad. I was recently employed at the Arthur Waldron SD Academy. That's the only Adventist high school in Dominica, and also my alma mater. And I'm very excited to be here this afternoon to share my experiences and give advice and even to learn as well, because I would want to pursue even more my college educational life and so on.
Awesome. I think you would have answered the question I was about to ask you, what you can offer. So awesome, Alika. It will be a quite interesting discussion from your perspective, a recent graduate from Dominica. Looking forward to it. And our final panelist for this afternoon is a major social media contributor, no pun intended. But this man has consistently been contributing on Zoom Hope Live through the social media handles by placing questions and offering comments. He's no stranger to the Zoom Hope family, and we say welcome, Mr. Colin Major.
Good afternoon, everyone. And yes, I am Colin Major with a Y. Most people spell it with an I, but mine is with a Y. So, Alika, I share what you mean about your name. I am currently an academic counselor at the University of the Bahamas. I've been doing that since 1994 and 5 more years prior to that. I'm a graduate of Oakwood University, La Sierra University, Virginia Polytech and State Institute. So I've been around a little bit. I got a bachelor's, master's, and educational specialist degree. I'm an ABD. I started my PhD, did all of the work. I just didn't do the dissertation. So I have not done that. But what do I bring to the table? I am in my capacity now. I work with students who are pursuing their passion and pursuing their dream at the college level. And I'm working with those students who are falling by the wayside on their way to getting their degree. I am also a gospel recording artist. I'm also a musician. And so that adds to what I can bring to the table. And it's good to be here.
Awesome. So it's awesome to see you on this side, Colin. And I'm sure, other than typing and working your fingers hard, you'll be able to verbalize all those powerful points this week. Looking forward to the discussion. Now, Zoom Hope family, we have been entertained on a weekly basis by our major music contributor. And he comes here again to give us our theme song for the month, Heading to the Top.
Yeah, I'm heading to the top. I'm heading to the top. Yeah, I'm heading to the top. Barbed wire. Life is like a boxing match. You gotta get ready for them blows. With my head up, my feet firm, I'm moving forward to claim the prize that I've been training for. Success might not be an overnight experience. You will be falling, but keep on fighting. Even if you have to hold on to the ropes, remember you'll be heading to the top. I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. Heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting way too long. I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. Heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting way too long. I got my pants on, shirt on my back, shoe. Lace my back is strapped. Move out of my way, cause I can't wait for another day. Hey, who you think you're talking to? That I won't reach my destination, yeah. Are you my determination? What do you know about my struggles? Cause I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. Heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting too long. I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. Heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting too long. I gotta keep on fighting to the end. I gotta keep on fighting to the end. They won't get me down. They won't get me down. The tricks won't get me down. Discouragement won't get me down. I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. I'm heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting too long. I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. Heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting, yeah. I'm heading to the top, no looking back. Heading to the top, no one can stop. Heading to the top to claim my prize. Cause I've been waiting. I'm heading for they won't get me down. They won't get me down. They won't. No, they won't get
All right. Seems like my system had a small lag. Apologize for that. But we're going to go into our first question for today. And it's, is it necessary to go to college to pursue your purpose? Let's begin with Brittany.
Okay. Is it necessary to go to college to pursue your purpose? Well, it depends on what you want to do. As for me, it was necessary as it came to looking at the bigger picture. As Christians, our purpose should always be to get a closer relationship with Christ and to bring others to Christ. But along with that is my purpose is making people happy, being a part of making the world a better place and challenging myself intellectually and physically. And how that fit into my college journey is that I picked a degree where it would put me in the front line of doing exactly that. As I said earlier, I am pursuing a degree in history and law and criminal justice. And what those degree is, I wanted to join our police force frontline, and later on I wanted to teach our nation's youth and produce individuals like such to come into our society. And along my college journey, I joined organizations where I volunteered and helped people, and I also joined the track and field team to keep me physically fit and to challenge myself. So those things I use to help me with my purpose throughout my college journey. And also I stay connected to Christ by attending church and praising him. So it depends on what your purpose is. But for me, yes.
Awesome. All right, Pastor Salazar, can you take a look at this question?
Yeah. Necessary. I think all of us can probably identify people in life and in society that didn't go to college and they were very successful. Those tend to be, of course, on the minority quantity side, so it's not something that you should probably expect to happen. It just kind of, by percentage wise, statistically, a few of them are going to occur. You can think of big people like Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, Bill Gates. They all dropped out of college and now they have built empires. Sean Combs, P. Diddy, is similarly, that they decided to. And what I think is more their passion was so far ahead of where the professors were, because they're teaching kind of at a general level where everybody, the majority of people are at. So sometimes our individual passion may be so far ahead or our skill level ahead that we can be in a situation, in a place that we can contribute, we can do the necessary things to stand out without the college life. But for the majority of us, statistically speaking, we do need the regular path that college life takes us on.
Okay, awesome. Alika, let's hear from you.
All right. When I saw this question, the first thing that came to my mind was what exactly is purpose? And I think last Sabbath you all did a very good program on pursuing and discovering your purpose. And for me, purpose deals with figuring out or finding out what God has planned for you. And with that in mind, knowing that purpose comes from God, then I won't say we need college to pursue our purpose because it comes from God. However, God may have instilled in us like special skills and abilities. You know, there may be things we may lean into. Like for me, I am scientifically inclined. I love nature and I love the scientific stuff, mathematics and so on. So that led me to pursue a degree in biology. But essentially, that is not my final purpose. That just adds to what God has already given me, and it will equip me to even reach a wider scope because essentially God just wants us to share His love and to serve others. So I don't think you need a college, but to pursue your purpose, but it adds to your value, to your reach.
Awesome. All right. So, Colin, from your perspective, being such a investing so much time in the University of the Bahamas, from that perspective, I'm sure you would not be dissuading anybody from pursuing their purpose through college. But what's your take?
Well, like the question says, is it necessary? It all depends on who you ask. From an early age, as children, we're told that we should get a good job, go to college, get a good education, and start our careers. And the numbers kind of speak to it that those people who do get college degrees have more stable opportunities. But let me say this. In life, there's no such thing as a perfect course to success. I believe people carve their own unique path, and that may or may not include college. The question is, I think the thing is for us to help people to discover what their talents are and finding out their passion and landing a job or career that can help them to embrace their strengths. For some people, they don't want to go to college. What do you do with those persons who are not interested in post-secondary education? They don't know what they want to do. They need a break from school. They don't believe they need a college education to do what they want. The key is, as difficult as it may be for some to admit, college is not for everyone, and that's okay. And so for those students who decide to forego college, they can get into other careers. And just as Pastor Salazar has mentioned, you have those, the few who take the other course, don't go to college, and they excel. But there are all kinds of other opportunities that are available for individuals outside of the college arena in order for them to be successful. And even though I'm a college counselor, I realize that, and I see the evidence all around me.
Great. Now, let me try to muddy up this water a little bit. Let me try to see how best we can flesh this out. I'm getting that most of us are saying, most of you panelists are saying, you don't necessarily have to go to college to pursue your purpose, but college can enhance your ability to achieve your purpose. Whether it accelerates it or whatever the case may be, or it actualizes it. Now, when we think about that, we also look at traditionally when we are counseling teens and young adults, we are always of the mindset that college or going to college is a positive process, is a positive step. However, we also recognize that some persons aren't academically inclined to maintain themselves, maintain the courses in college. Now, what do you say now in terms of career advice for those persons who aren't necessarily college material? What advice can you give them in terms of a pathway to attaining your purpose?
What do you want to talk about?
Anyone?
I guess I can go. here first. I remember my father, he'd always say about little short thing that my grandfather would tell them. None of my dad or my uncles were academically inclined. I don't know if any of them actually even finished the equivalent of high school, secondary education in El Salvador. But he would tell them, he told his boys, he says, sons, if you don't want to study, learn a trade. Because if you learn a trade, you will always have work. This world, no matter how technologically advanced it gets, there still is basic needs that need to, kind of like plumbing, motorized, people, mechanics, things like that. And at least in the United States, manual labor provides actually pretty good money, and you don't need a college education. Now, that may not be the purpose that you want in life, but ultimately people find a lot of satisfaction in these trades. Sometimes that is where your area of giftedness is in. It becomes just an enhancement of a hobby that you get to do for a living, and you get paid to do your hobby. And so I think that's one of going into a trade of manual labor. That may be one avenue that people can pursue.
All right. So while you say that, let me pose this to Brittany and Alika. Can you recount any high school or primary school classmate, batchmate of yours who didn't take the route that you are taking now, but are actually doing quite well for themselves? And you may have had a thought or two and like, boy, maybe I should have not gone this way. Any one of you can relate to that?
I could most definitely relate, but to answer your question, what you asked previously was the fact that if I had someone like that did not want it, one of my friends that didn't want it to go to college per se because college wasn't a thing, or they just was not interested, one of the things I tell them first to do is to figure out what you're good at, and then do some research on it and see how you can get more good at it and perfect that craft and go into that area. Or, like Pastor would have said, take up a trade. Myself and others, one of the things I did with one of my friends was we both went and took up a trade from BTBI, the trade school in the Bahamas here, and she took up esthetician and I took up nail technology. It was more of an encouragement thing, and now we're making money from it. And for her, that was her purpose. For me, it was a hobby, but I was supporting her with it. And now she's happy and she's helping people and doing what she want to do. So
sometimes just getting a job may be the best thing for some people. Many persons do not know what they like to do. And we oftentimes say, well, listen, what do you like to do? Sometimes you have to try different jobs before you get to discover by trial and error what it is you may like. You can also talk with other people who may notice some gifts or talents that you have, and you can follow those as guidelines in terms of what to do. But a lot of times, trying out different jobs, like the pastor mentioned, going to trade school, what are some of your talents? You could take online courses or classes for free in the areas that you're interested in, so you can try to determine whether or not you like a particular area. You can, I tell people, volunteer to do certain kinds of work. And you may discover that in volunteering to do certain kinds of work or kinds of activities, you may like them. And out of those different things, you may be able to discover an area that you may be able to pursue for a career.
All right. Alika, do you have a take on this? A further take?
I share the same idea with the others. Um, God has already instilled in us certain talents and stuff, and it is our duty to go out and figure it. And it may not be academic wise. We could be good with our hands, cooking, sewing, cleaning, even singing, speaking well, and we could work on these things. And just as Mr. Major said, it's good to volunteer. And through volunteering, you can develop these skills and even figure out these hidden talents you have and discover what you really love doing. And even it would even be better by helping persons with the skills you have. So if it's cleaning, you have a liking for cleaning, you can create a little cleaning business, help an elderly or somebody disabled, just to help someone and make a difference. So you don't always have to go the academic trail, with the help of God, anything is possible.
Kevin, let me add something else too. I work with students whose academic grade is below 2.0. In other words, they're not in good academic standing. And in order for them to stay in college, they need to see me so I can help them to discover what's going on. And for a lot of students, you will find that a lot of students are trying to live their parents' dream instead of finding their own. And that's one thing. Some parents will say, I'm not paying for you unless you do accounting. I'm not paying for you unless you go into medicine. Some students want to do art. There's no money in art. There's no money in music. These are what the students are telling me. But that's what their passion is.
Right.
And so parents are trying to live their lives through them or not allowing them to make the decision. Another thing I've discovered too is this. Whenever a student comes to me who's on academic probation because of their grades, first thing I do is pull their transcript. I look at their grades. I see what their major is, and I look at what grades they're getting in their major areas. They're wanting to be a medical doctor, but they're getting F's and D's in biology and chemistry. Or they want to do engineering and physics and getting F's in all of those courses. But they're getting good grades in other courses. And what a lot of students don't realize is that in every course that you take, there's a possibility of a whole number of different careers in that one particular course. And so a part of what I will do is help them to look at the areas where they're doing well and want to pursue, look for different careers in that particular subject area. And then let's see what you can find that may be of interest to you.
That is so true. I in fact was listening to a program yesterday, and that was the sum and total of the program, where you had, in fact, I wasn't listening to the program actually. I was talking to a friend of mine. I listen so much radio, I get confused. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was relating to me that a friend of his had that issue where, he was basically in university just getting by because what he wants to do forex trading. He's good at that. That's what he wants to do. But his parents want him to be a doctor, and they are paying. They will pay for him to stay in the course. So he's just miserably going along. So that's important for us to, parents and mentors and so on. We have to guide. We have to allow young people to express themselves in the direction that they are being led, and not try to force feed them into a direction into a mold that we see them in.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is similar to the first.
Can I share one thing? Another thing that probably
go ahead, Pastor.
Some people, due to their personality, maybe just the way their mind operates, main thing is military service. Just having that structure. Sometimes people don't know how to handle. They haven't been educated in how to manage your own life on your own. You know, once you're finished high school or secondary education, now there's no one telling you you have to be at school at this certain time through this certain at this certain hour. Military life will dictate for you, will give a structure to an individual's life that makes it a lot easier, especially if you're only there for 6 years. Then you can start to transition there. There are challenges that come along to the life of faith when you enter into military service, but that is also another option.
I agree with Pastor Salazar because, in the Bahamas, you have the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and the police force, which are areas, and there are many persons who need the discipline. And those organizations, if they join one of those, they will get the discipline, and out of that discipline that they're getting to be an officer or to be in the service, they can then develop the kind of discipline that they will need to also pursue other areas. So sometimes careers like those are very helpful for individuals as well as to help them to get on track in terms of getting discipline, the disciplined mind for their life.
All right, awesome. Now we're gonna look at our comments from social media, and Barrington Brennan made a comment, and I want us to weigh in on it, especially the last part. It said, education should not be considered an option, but a natural process. Also, every trade requires education. Let's weigh in on that.
Say that education definitely is required at every stage and step of life. What I think most of us are describing right now is formal education, such as school. And I think all the panelists here probably agree that for almost most individuals, formal education, just the way society is set up, is the best option. Trade schools, once again, that is education, but it is very narrowed and focused into that particular skill and trade. But all throughout, from our birth, we're being educated by someone. And it's not a matter of will you be educated, rather the decision that we have to make is, who are we going to allow to educate us?
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. Because you can, for example, there are persons who can't afford to pay for an education, but they can get free online classes. There's education that they can get for free that is online. So in lieu of going to college, one doesn't have to say, well, I'm not going to get an education. It's just the means whereby you're going to get it. And many persons have taken advantage of free online education and have used that as a stepping stone to get further. So there are many options besides college, and getting free online courses is one of them as well. I agree.
Now one thing that has stood out for us in this pandemic is that the pandemic has taught us that we have to be able to pivot. We have to be able to pivot. The way that we normally do things, we have to now pivot or move in a different direction. Having more time at home has allowed us now to be more creative. And so whilst we are not trying to move away from our topic, we will now have to actually focus in on college life itself. What elements of college life are stressors? Let's take it from that angle. What are the stressors that are presented in college life? Somebody is about to enter university this fall. What what can they look forward to getting themselves into? Is it going to be smooth sailing all the way through? What are the stressors? Let's take Alika and then Brittany, and then we'll move on from there.
All right. Um, Going into college is definitely not smooth sailing. Um, One of the first stressors the average person might face is actually considering how am I going to afford college, because college is very expensive. At the end of 4 years, you'll pay thousands of dollars. Um, when you do go over that hurdle, um, and you decide, okay, I'm going to study this and so on, there comes dealing with your time and balancing that around having a good physical life, social as well as academical. You have to be able to balance assignments, prepare well for tests, and also you have that pressure from family as well, because they expect you to do well. No one loves failure, and then you may fail sometimes, but at the end of the day, the overall experience of college is very fulfilling, because at the end you will achieve a bachelor's degree in whatever, or associate degree, and you will also meet a lot of persons. You will gain experience which will better equip you for what you would set forward. So it's all based on your mindset as well, and how you are able to handle the stresses and move on and create an all well experience in the end.
Okay, awesome. Let's hear you, Brittany.
Spence, I have so much to say on this particular question. um, as for me, I've endured tremendous challenges with my college journey. Um, at first, it was I'm from the Family Island. That's not that's not the capital. I had to move after I finished high school and come to the capital to pursue my college degree. And after that was because certain classes were not offered in the Family Islands, I had a full year and a half of prep. Then I wanted to be a doctor. And the closest thing we have to that in pursuing that is biochemistry. I never took chemistry, never took physics, and I was failing left and right. And so I sat down with a counselor. One of those were Mr. Colin Major, and we figured out what I was good at. And I switched my major. So a lot of students like me come in there with a certain mindset to do something, but when they start to do it, we have challenges, and you have other students that don't even know what they want to do, but they waste a lot of time. So after figuring out what I actually wanted to do, another thing was financial burden. It wasn't until fall 2019 when our government made university free. So before, it was a struggle every semester in trying to find finances to even complete my degree. And then you had days for me where I had to pray, and constantly pray, trying to keep my faith, because days used to be so rough. And I had to, when I felt like God was giving up on me, I had to constantly try to keep my faith and belief in Him. And then you have other things like lecture problems, getting into class problems. Like the whole works was just tedious. And at a certain point for me, I had to realign my focus. I got distracted with so much different things. I had to realign my focus. And I had to remember what I came here for, and what I had to accomplish. And sad to say is a lot of people don't realize that until something drastic happened in their life. For me, it was losing my mother in 2018 that really changed the college experience for me. That took me to like, okay, you gotta get it together. And I created a plan. And ever since, I've been following that plan, and now I'm graduating in the spring. And I had to limit all the distractions, which include limited my time on social media, spend more time in the library, spend more time working and trying to balance it all out, along with trying to have a social life. I had to put it all in one just to reach that goal. So I have a lot of friends that I helped coming into college, and one of the things I tell them is, they always tell me, you're so blunt with it. And you're supposed to be telling me it's supposed to be fun. And I say, yes, it is fun. But college is not for the weak mind. But you could easily lose your way because there's nobody holding you accountable. There's nobody running after you to do this and that. And there's so much activities and different stuff and diversity over campus. You could easily lose your way along with other problems that you face. So don't come with that mindset as if it's going to be a breeze. You have to come there focused, even if you have to meet with a counselor to figure out what you got to do. Just have the right people around you, have the right mind, and stay focused and keep God first. Sorry to say that.
Awesome. All right, let's take pause and then we wrap this up with Colin.
I think entering into college, recognize you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to shift your life. Now there are going to be demands on you. Now there are going to be expectations of you just because you've reached another stage in life. And sometimes just because of social economical things, you can't just dedicate your life to study. And I'm happy to hear that in the Bahamas, I think someone mentioned that it's now free education, but you may still have to be giving money, supporting your family, because it's not enough. If you're on your own, you have to have a job still, and you have to manage all that time constraint to be able to do these things. So one thing is recognize your life is going to change, and your ability to change is going to be a big determiner if you will have success in college life. If you want to maintain the secondary education, high school life, it may work for a semester or two, but it's going to catch up to you. And unfortunately, it does to many people. They just choose not to shift and reorient their direction. Sometimes there may be a young lady who is a single mother. Now, they have a responsibility, and college is not going to necessarily say, okay, I'm going to understand your situation. You have to figure it out, and that becomes very challenging there. So if you can get a support group behind you, not trying to figure it out last minute how you're going to do things, but focus, okay, what is my goal? What options do I have? If I pursue these options, what are the likely outcomes, the results of taking these actions? And therefore, you feel in control now, instead of just feeling all this pressure. I have to do this. This is what's expected of me. Now you have a little bit more control and say, this is my choice. This is what I've decided. These are the action steps that I'm going to take. And usually once you take action steps, you'll find some work, some don't. But because you've seen what works, then you can have an easier time adjusting the action steps that did not work. But there is going to be change. You are going to have to pivot. You are going to have to adapt.
All right.
Our panelists are absolutely right. College is different from high school. It has a whole lot more challenges. And one of the things that students who are failing are discovering is that what worked in high school isn't working in college. One of the main reasons why students are not succeeding in college, I find, is the same thing that Brittany mentioned, and that is time management. They're used to going to school from 8 until 3 or from 10 until whatever. Now their time is different. They have a class at 8 o'clock, don't have a class till 12, they don't have a class till 6 o'clock. So what am I going to do with all of this time? Time management. And then how to approach this more difficult work that is now ahead of me. It requires more critical thinking. It requires you spending more time on it, tackling the subjects a little differently. And so what you find out, like Brittany said, you're now accountable. Lecturers will not run behind you. They're not checking up on you to see whether you're turning in your work or not. And then at home, even though you're in college, parents still expect you to do this and that. Many students say, my parents think, because I'm in college now, I have all this time, I can still do A, B, C, and D. So they still have to balance those. Now, COVID has brought some additional challenges because now their siblings are home and sometimes their parents are home. There's only 1 or 2 bedrooms or rooms in the house. People are sharing computers and students are not having the privacy that they need in order to do their work. So it has created a whole lot more stress on students. And as was mentioned by several panelists, you have to now find ways to adjust and to adapt. And that's what college is all about. And talking with a counselor, talking with somebody else is one of the opportunities that's available to you so you can find ways to navigate. You don't have to do this all by yourself. You can talk to someone who can help you to look at options, look at different avenues, ways to approach this, to deal with this, because if you don't, students will end up failing. And as Brittany mentioned, you may be on the free government scholarship, but if you don't maintain that 2.0 GPA, you are off the scholarship the next semester, and that means you or your parents have to find a way to pay for it. So it presents all kinds of challenges all around for students. So it is not easy, which is why your mind has to be set. And back to the social media side, many students, how do I deal with the social media stuff? All of these things are beckoning all the time, grabbing for their attention, all of these distractions. And if you're not able to manage those and to put all of those in perspective, college could end up not going the way you want to, because it requires a lot of adjustment on your part.
Now, personally, I can relate to a bit of what was said. I would consider my experience being that I learned how to learn when I got to college.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school, I always, in my report card, I would always get at least 1 or 2 teachers who would put the comment, and I never understood it till I got to college. Said, stop settling for mediocrity. And I would look up that word and I would say, okay, it means for average. Stop just doing what you need to do to get by. You have the potential to be an A student, but if you pass, you're happy. You know, so that was my posture. But when I got to college and teachers college, and we were studying the process of learning, that was when my mind became re-engineered and I really understood how to prepare for tests, how to perform, and I was always ahead of the game from there going forward. You know, so after having gone through that experience, I am now able to mentor my students in allowing them to understand that, you know, learning and trying to be successful is not an overnight process. Yes, you are smart. Yes, you can get up tomorrow and do a math test and ace it. But for the duration of your educational experience, that is not going to cut it. When you have to write a paper from your head and not Google it, that is an that is a taxing situation. And then if you go and Google it and you decide to plagiarize a few words and make it fancy, when your lecturer puts that into the plagiarism detector, that's not gonna fly. So college life is about bringing out the intellect in you, and you have to change the whole way in which you approach the educational process. And I would further to say the hardest degree is the bachelor's degree.
First degree.
Once you get over that foundation, you are now in your purpose. Because when you choose to do a master's, you are saying, yes, let me do a master's in this because it piques my interest, or let me go to another level. So now you are already in the groove, you're already flowing. And so you can go from another step to another step. All right, now let's look at some more comments from social media. I see here, we already addressed it, but Larry was able to weigh in and he said, why is focus important in college? I think Brittany touched on that. A few of us touched on that as well. Lady Ash would have said, trying to get down there, would have said, college takes a lot of focus and dedication. And that is the crux of what being a successful college student is about. A lot of dedication, a lot of focus. Let's look at question number 3. And I think we started to touch on some of that just now. What are some of the challenges and one encounters on the way to pursuing your purpose to college? And how does one stay the course during challenges encountered in these COVID times? So since we would have addressed the lion's share of this question, let us now cue in on the last part that now seeks to put focus not only now on the general sense of what college brings, because college generally brings challenges, generally. But now that we are in the pandemic, how now can one stay the course while we have this added stressor? So we'll start with Colin, then Pastor, and then we'll take the 2 young ladies afterwards.
One of the things that students need to do is to keep their goal in the front. I always tell students, if your goal is to become a nurse, dress up like a nurse, take a picture of it, of yourself in your outfit, put it on your phone, put it on your mirror, keep it in front of you all the time. So whenever you're tempted to want to quit or give up, you're always looking at your goal. You must also have a goal for every course that you're taking. And in every course that you're taking, for every assignment, you should have a goal. So we need to always have goals. If we don't have goals, then we're running aimlessly. And we need to make sure we have the goal in front of us. We can have the threat to quit often if we allow others, even our friends, to sidetrack us, which is why it's also important, I suggest for students, set up a study schedule, set up a how you spend your time every day schedule that includes your times for study, your courses, when you exercise, when you eat, when you watch TV. Set up a study schedule, set up a plan, and then follow it, and then adjust it. If you don't have a plan going forward, then it's highly likely that you are not going to make it. And you need to have a good work ethic, sticking to it. And my philosophy is it's like Winston Churchill, the shortest speech he ever gave. And that is never, never, never give up. You have to be persistent in your desire to get what it is that you want. Don't let parents, don't let friends, don't let social media, and a part of the distractions, I always tell students, when you sit down to study, shut off all social media. Put them on silent. Put them in your bag, because the temptation is great. And you can't go in two directions at the same time. You can't go in two directions at the same time. If your goal is to study, then get rid of those distractions. Keep your mind focused. Just as people have been saying, you have to be focused on what it is you want to do in order to make it happen.
Great.
Yeah, in continuation and echoing what Mr. Major has mentioned, COVID or no COVID, things in life always try to catch up to us and throw us off balance, throw curveballs. It's supposed to be difficult. Naturally, we would want it easier. And I'm reminded of a scene in a movie, I think it's called The League of Their Own, of a women's baseball team. And one of the stars kind of like just finally decided to give up, and he's letting the manager know. And she finally just says, it got to be it's too difficult. And the manager kind of yells at her, it's supposed to be difficult. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm doing my doctorate right now, and I know firsthand the result of not sticking on to the study schedule. I've had to turn in assignments where you either turn it in and it has to be approved by your advisor. It's not just turn it in. And I hadn't spent so much time, and there was about one time, there was a 2-week period where I was dedicating, and luckily I had the availability to do it, giving about 6 to 10 hours each day just to barely make it through. So you really do have to stick to it. Be very consistent, be very intentional about it, and especially at COVID times, because it throws so many things off track. Yes, you have extra time, but because of other things, you have to be extra creative in how you manage your time. Another thing of how to stay the course during COVID times is really have that purpose, because your education is not to give you your purpose. You should know your purpose and therefore choose the right avenue within education to maximize, fulfill, and give direction, better direction to your purpose. And so, as also Mr. Major said, I mean, have that picture, dress up that part, but always have in mind and in your thought process, this is where I want to get to. One of my professors, he gave us our degree ahead of time. And he said, because we don't want you to just look at it as something you're pursuing. We want you to already be living out life as a doctor of the church. Mm-hmm. And I have it framed. Yes, it's not official. Yes, I know it's a worthless piece of paper that has no meaning or value to anyone else. But when I look at it, it gives me that extra push to say, I'm going to spend that extra hour. I'm going to keep the course. Right now, COVID has messed up so much of my work that I have to spend more time at work than before. And so I'm tired and exhausted many times mentally, and then to go back into school mode. So I have to but when I look at that, I say, okay, this is what I believe that God has called on me. Yes, it's difficult, but now I'm going to make that determination. And little by little, now I am now entering year 3 when I wanted to give up in year number 1.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, let's take Alika.
All right. Mr. Major and Pastor said it so well. I especially identify with what he said, with our purpose should be connected, or no, I should not say that our intention should be that we connect our academic pursuits and with our purpose, because our purpose will help fuel that. And that will help us stay on the course because, as you rightly said, COVID has changed so many things. I remember my last semester, that was about last year, March. That's when COVID really hit the Caribbean. And I had to move from Trinidad back to my home very suddenly. And it changed the dynamic. I was no longer in a set classroom, have my teacher right in front of me. I'm just now all on Zoom. I was in the comfort of my home, had the distractions of my family. But I had to remind myself, hey, this is my last term. This is what determines whether I graduate or not. And I really need to structure myself and remind myself that, I have an end goal here. And with that mindset, you can be in home, you create a little space. Okay, this is my study space. I'm not going to stay in my room because if I stay on my bed, I will fall asleep. You have this study space. And most importantly, take breaks because with this COVID thing, you're always on the computer, always on your phone, and it can get tiring. It could have a physical effect on your body. So it's important to take breaks because you don't want to tire out yourself and then you can't get back on course. So you pace yourself, you give yourself breaks, and you ensure that whatever you are pursuing academically, it's aligned with your purpose. And that will encourage you to stay on course because if it's not in line with your purpose, then what's the point? Do it. Why do it in the first place? So yes, that's my encouragement.
Awesome. Brittany?
I don't want to be insensitive to others that COVID has affected, especially academically. But for me, COVID has been a blessing in the sky academically. I've never been more focused than I was or am during the COVID pandemic. And I cannot tell you why. I don't know if it's because I get to stay home and do as many classes and I have less distractions, but I've never been more focused. But for the ones that are in environments where they don't have the privacy to do classes, or for the ones that don't have a stable internet connection to even do classes, I can understand the difficulty, and my only advice is to try to find out what resources your school is offering. Like for our school, you could have come and do classes in the internet cafe or stuff like that, but I could see where it was very challenging for them. But as for me, it was a blessing.
Kevin, I'd like to add a strategy that I use to motivate my students whose GPA is below 2 points and they're on academic probation. When I sit down with them, I map out a program with them. I tell them, now you're getting back in school this semester. Your goal is always to aim for 4.0, but the minimum we're going to accept this first semester is 2.0. 2.0. Now, let's say they get 2.25. I always tell them, whatever GPA you get this semester, your goal is to never get that again. And I encourage them, your goal now is not 2.0, it's 2.25. Once they get to 2.25, the next goal is 2.5, then 2.75. I show them how, if they're freshmen, in 4 years, you can get your GPA up to 3.75 or higher by following this strategy. And all it is 0.25 is just taking one step. I want you to just take one step at a time. And so when I have students following that trend, they get to see that it's doable. In other words, I may not get the 4.0 right away, but if I go step by step, I'm getting myself there. What I've also found out is I tell my students, let's set up a study schedule at the beginning of the semester. As soon as you find out what your courses are, let's map out a strategy. For those students who set up a study schedule and follow it, here's what I've discovered. Their GPA goes up, and every semester they come back because they are happy with what happened. And I have had students who were below 2.0 and graduated with a 3.78 or higher because they began focus, they became disciplined, they began to follow some strategies to make it happen. Just like Brittany is talking about, she's now focused and what have you. So those are some of the strategies that I put in place to help my students, to help to get them back on track.
I remember that one of my first jobs was working at kind of an office supply store, Office Depot. And our store was the first of a micro one. And the CEO of the company actually came out. And so we got to talk with him. And he mentioned something that when he started as the CEO of that company, he said, all right, this is an okay company. And he wanted to take it to the next step. Of course, the dream would be kind of the model, the best. He recognized that it needed to go step by step. So instead of working to be a great company, he said, I'm going to take a step. Let's, from an okay company right now, we'll go to become a good company. And then when he got to a good company, he said, all right, now we're going to go from good to great. And I've applied that model to the churches that I've pastored, where some of them were very bad or some were okay. And I was like, we're going to take one step to learn how to discipline ourselves to actually function in a great environment, because oftentimes we can't make that full leap. We don't know how to maintain it. Once I have victories under my belt, then I know, then I have some skills, then I have tools, I have experience, I know how to manage, and I can take those next steps into being a student that excellent student or a very good student. I can be a very bad student, but I can always make the choice. I am going to improve. I may not be able to make the huge leap, but I can make these small steps. And little by little, you learn it, you adapt, and you incorporate positive habits until you become where you thought you'd never be.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, we have talked quite extensively for the past hour and some. But it would be remiss of me for us to move on unless we now discuss the whole aspect of the spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that connection with God to your success in college life? And how can one strategically make time for God each day with the demanding rigors of college life and life itself? Let's talk about that.
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. What are those things that will be added unto us? Well, the context is all the things that concern us about daily life, of survival. And in college, I mean, we have our own things that we need to do to get by in class, the jobs that we need to be able to live. One of the things is you map out that time for God from the beginning. It's amazing how things start getting in place. And it may mean that you have to say no to that late night show or that extra movie or going to sleep. I mean, leaving your friend's house a little bit earlier than used to. But if you start waking up, I can guarantee you that after a few nights, your body is going to make you say you're going to sleep earlier. But and even if you're, say, like me, I'm not a morning person, but the times that I start saying I'm gonna get up at this time, I'm all drowsy, I'm all dizzy at the beginning, but later on it's amazing what going to sleep earlier does, and now I can wake up much better earlier in the morning. God handles. You take care of business with God first, He's going to be faithful to be with you in the other things that you desperately need to survive in life and to survive in college. Now, college life, when you factor in God into it, make sure that you find some like-minded friends of faith in college, because they are going to be the ones that support you in your own personal journey of faith. The other ones that have left the faith, that don't care about God at all, they're not going to be interested in that area of your life. All they're going to be interested in is how you can benefit them and the fun that you can have together. But you as a Christian are thinking higher. You as a Christian are thinking further. And God has called you to bless the world. And as a result of the education that you are getting, you can bless the world much more effectively.
Yes, I agree with that.
Thank you.
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
Okay. I would say remember what's more important to you. Yes, a degree is important, but your relationship with Christ is too. And I would say to have good time management. As it relates to me, I am on the track and field team that requires me to wake up, actually not even wake up, to be to practice for 5 a.m., which means I have to wake up from 4:30. And during that time, between me waking up, I schedule in where I pray, read my Bible, and do devotions before I head to practice. And that's my way of inserting my time. I know that I insert my time with God every day. I pray before I go to sleep at night and throughout the day if needs be. And that's just one way that I make sure I stay connected throughout the day and stay connected throughout my college journey. And because God has been so good to me, like things where when I felt that there was no way possible, me showing lack of faith. And I prayed and I trust God, and then He came through time and time again. So like I would say, like, don't give up on God. Be faithful to Him and incorporate that time, because there's no excuse as in to say you're too busy. There's always somewhere throughout your day where you can incorporate Him. Just how you find other things important, make Him important as well. And another thing is to remember your why. And as it pertains to spirituality, for me, I used to sing on a praise team in my church on conference-wise. And when you're doing that, and especially if you're inside the public light, you have a lot of people that says a lot of things. And even going to church-wise, you have to remember your why. You have to drown out everyone and remember your purpose and why you're doing it. And when you do, nothing else matters. And I would say this for church and for school. Remember your why and nothing else matters. And that's what basically been keeping me through. So.
Awesome. Anika, you want to weigh in? Then I'll throw it to Colin.
I would like to join as well. For me, leaving home from and going to Trinidad on my own was really a testing time for me, especially with my spirituality and finding God for myself, because throughout high school, I would wake up, have family worship, and you have that structure and order. But then when you get to university, no one is like telling you, though we had morning worships, but no one is coming into your room and saying, wake up, let's go and worship, or, you have to worship and so on. And it's really now for you to decide if you want that relationship with God. And for me, I had very early mornings because my labs would start like from 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I had to wake up really early to get ready. And going to bed late, it's kind of like difficult adjusting to that early morning and being so tired still. So what I would do sometimes, yes, I would pray and so on, but like in the night when I am in my room, I would have my Bible out and my devotion and like do a more in-depth worship, but something to make up for what I couldn't fully do in the morning. Um, there are free times during the day. You can find that time even during the day in between classes, to catch up, read up on something. And, the Lord says, pray without ceasing. Your worship doesn't have to necessarily be with Bible devotion quarterly. You can pray throughout the day, talk to the Lord, and like, God, I'm going to this class today, help me, and so on and so forth. And like Pastor Salva said, surround yourself with good people with like mindset. And that is one of the things I did that really helped me and kept me on track. I also try to involve myself as much as I can because I think so. If I had the opportunity, I'd do it to use my talents to remind me, why I'm here and who is actually getting me through this college experience, which is really God. So I just encourage persons, put God first, no matter how you do it or how you try to do it, but build that relationship with Him, because only with having that relationship with God, you can figure out your entire purpose. And your purpose is what drives you throughout life. And when you figure out that purpose, you will also have that effect on others to, figure out themselves to get closer with God and so on. So yes, that's my encouragement.
I agree with all of my other panelists. We must put God first. We can't do it without Him. It's difficult enough as it is. We need God on our side. But there's something the Bible also says we must do. It says we must study to show ourselves approved. I always tell my students, if you don't study, you won't be approved before the teacher. You will look stupid in class if the teacher asks you a question, and you will be embarrassed in front of your friends. So here's how you help God out. I always tell them you can help God out. You ask God to help you to remember what you studied, but you studied nothing. So nothing times nothing is nothing. So I tell students, add something to it. If you study, if you put in your time, then ask God to bless your efforts. God will help you. I tell students this: you cannot go and take your textbook that you have to read chapter 1 for an exam tomorrow and put the textbook under your pillow and pray, dear Lord, I pray that through the process of osmosis that you will cause this information to come into my brain and that I will be able to analyze it and dissect it and be ready for the exam tomorrow. Thank you so much. I tell them it does not work that way. It's not the process of osmosis. We have to do something. If we study, put the time in, we pray, ask God to help us. Trust me, God will help you to make the impossible happen.
And that's very important, and I thank you for that perspective, and for all of you panelists for your perspective. It took me back to my experience, and just hearing Alika talk about devotion, morning devotion, Pastor Salazar talk about waking up early in the morning. I can remember growing up, and every morning 5 o'clock, my mom would wake us up, and it would be a struggle for me because I'm like, Yeah, man. I mean, I get it. I get that we gotta worship, but why it gotta be 5 a.m.? I had that struggle, but I recognize that she woke us up at 5 a.m. It gave us a 15 minutes to be awake, and we would sing at least 4 or 5 songs until if you want to ask me if we go to church now and we start to sing number one, number two, number three, number four, I don't have to look at the book. I was singing those songs in reverse because we had a number 15. I would we would these are our devotional hymns, and I would know them. And it wasn't until I went to college and I had to stay on dorm because I lived in Manchester and I went to college in Kingston. And if you know about Jamaica, that's 3 hours apart. So it wasn't like I could be home and commute to school every day. But it was only when I was there and I was in the dorm by myself. And at 5 o'clock, surely my eyes popped open. Now, what am I going to do with all this time that I have before the sun comes up? And I would try to fight and go back to sleep. But my mind was like, no, 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 no. You've been doing this thing for years. So, it's very important to develop these habits for those of you who have families, to develop these habits with your children, because as sure as the word of God says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart. He may stray, but like the prodigal, he will come back home. And another thing too is another principle that for years I thought this was biblical, and I never knew it wasn't biblical until I decided to search it up where it says, "God help those who help themselves." That was used to me so much that I thought it was actually in the Bible, but it's not in the Bible. But the principle is for sure. As Colin said, you cannot say, "Let me sleep with a book on the side of me," and tomorrow you go in the exam and pray to God for some miracle to happen. I had a miracle happen for me where um, all languages are foreign to me, including English. So I had struggles, major struggles passing English. And I remember when I had to do my last English course, I said, you know what? If this was math, because I was ace in calculus and all those things, like they were nothing. But simple communication was, you know, working me over. So I decided that I would be ahead of time. So I got all the assignments and I made sure that I did them ahead of weeks before. And I would be back and forth. There was a research essay which was about not three-quarter, but half of the entire course. And I decided that there were many topics, many topical topics, child abuse, teenage, pregnancy, and all of that. And I said to myself, I do not want to be caught up in a debate when the lecturer goes to Mark to say, well, Brittany expressed this topic much better than him, so let me give Brittany the lion's share of the course. So I decided to go to a topic that nobody I know would do it. I was talking about cultural expression. I did all the research. I did everything in time. Brought this to the lecturer. This was like 3 weeks before it was due. She said, yes, your findings are good. You're on the right track to do the thing. So I did it, left it with her for marking. Now she was supposed to give me the grades back before we did the final exam. When I got the grade, I kept looking at it and wondering who this was for. Because I am certain that I had consulted with her like a couple weeks before. Long story short, I had an F on that course, which means that I would not be able to pass the class. And I literally, she said, well, may God be with you in that exam because only Him can help you to pass. And when she said those words to me, that's all I needed to hear. And for every sentence, and this is a true story, for every sentence I wrote in that exam, I uttered a word of prayer. When the exam was over, the worst thing you could do is go to your friends and ask them about it, and they tell you about their interpretation. And their interpretation and my interpretation didn't line up. So I was already in panic mode. But long story short, when the result came out, I was so nervous. I sent a friend of mine to go and check because they would post a grade on the wall and they would put P for pass beside the ID number. So I sent my ID with the guy and he came back and said, well, I didn't see anything but P's. I said, are you sure? And he said, yes. And I happened to get the last C minus. And I'm proud to say it. I was able to get that last C minus in English. And the next semester, you know what? The university said C minus is no longer a pass. I said, praise the Lord. It's only God. So you see, when you put your faith and trust in God, you put God first, He will see you through. Now, panelists, this has been an engaging discussion. But I want each of you to take center stage now and to look into the camera and to give a last message of hope to our Zoom Hope family, to some parents, some students, some person out there who is pursuing their purpose through college, who is not necessarily having struggles or having struggles, but just breathe some hope into someone's life today. So we'll go with the ladies first, and we'll end with the pastor. We'll squeeze Colin right there just before the pastor. Let's go with Alika, then Brittany, Colin, and then Pastor.
Okay, so I just want to say I'm very happy that I could have been here and discuss with everyone and hear everyone's views. My word of hope and encouragement is more so a reminder that yes, we have so many things to achieve here on earth because everyone wants an education, whether it be formal or informal, but you all want to make it in life, and God himself says he wants us to ascend the full ladder of success. But I just want to remind us that earth is not our final home. It is not where we should lay all our treasures, and we shouldn't live for the words of others or the praise of others. More so, whatever we do in life, whatever we decide to pursue, it should be according to God's will for our life, because in the end, he has the final say. We are here on earth. He is watching every single thing we are doing, and we will be held accountable. So I encourage you that whatever you do, put God first. Ensure that it's aligned with his will. And if you're not sure, speak to him, read his word, because he has placed everything here for us. He is not an unfair God. He's not an unjust God. He wants us to succeed. He wants us to do our best, and he provides all these things for us to do our best. So ensure that in doing our best, it's the best of what God. It's the best of God or for God. So that's my encouragement for you all.
Okay, Brittany, go ahead.
I would say thanks for having me as well. I have a few words of encouragement. I would tell them to do not give up, do not quit, specifically for those that is still searching for their purpose, and for those who is on that road but find it difficult. I would say don't give up and don't quit. My next thing is to find like-minded individuals that align with your goals. Drown out all the naysayers, and to remember your why, and don't give up on God.
Thank you so much.
As always, it's a pleasure to be on this program. And I want to say to those that are listening, parents, and even students or others pursuing their career or their purpose, pray, work, Pray. Put God first. Keep your goals and your purpose not only in front of you, but internalize them. Prepare each day. Prepare each day to do your part. Challenge yourself not to be mediocre. You've got to keep reaching for your goals. You've got to take steps daily in the direction of your goals. And parents, help your child to follow their dream, their goal, not yours. Provide the kind of environment for them to be able to fulfill their purpose. And for those of you who are trying to fulfill your purpose, know that it's going to be difficult, but if you put your faith and trust in God, God will help you to make it happen. Rest in Jesus, pray, enjoy the results, praise, and rejoice.
Likewise, as all my fellow panelists today, I want to thank the attention that you've given to us during this last hour and a half. It's a pleasure to share some things of experiences and advice to you. And my closing bit of advice to give you hope is, if God has given you a dream, no one can take it away. And I'm reminded in the Bible of Joseph. His dad had a dream for him, Jacob, patriarch. But if he had followed his dad's dream, Joseph would have been the head of the family, but they would have starved in Egypt. If Joseph had succumbed to Potiphar's wife, he would have been the top dog at that house for the rest of his life. But God had given Joseph something bigger. And although Joseph had to suffer greatly and unjustly to maintain his integrity, he had no idea of maintaining integrity was actually leading him toward the dream that God had for him. If he had abused his authority in the prison, he could have been comfortable, but a comfortable prisoner for the rest of his life. But God had given him a dream. And that integrity ultimately led him to the palace halls in Pharaoh's court, where he saved his family and ultimately the people of God and the nations surrounding. And so there it is. As God has put purposes, desires, dreams in your heart, no one can take it away except you. People may try to stomp on it, may trample it, may make it difficult for you. But you make the choice in different ways, in little and in big ways, if you are going to stay the course of the passion, the purpose, the dream that God has given to you. And it may not be through usual methods like formal education of college. But if you are in that minority, recognize that even these big celebrity people that we recognize as very successful, they still surround themselves with people who have gone to college, who have had those degrees, because they know, although their creativity and some skills have reached and have put them in a position of influence, they still need the foundational pieces all around them to be successful. And that's where all these other people that have gone through college and received those degrees, they come in to play. But above all, keep God first. Intentionally and even non-intentionally, keep God passively just throughout the day. It's not a focused time, but thank Him. Just give up those 5-second, 10-second, 20-second prayers, those thought prayers, keeping God there in mind, because remember, it is He who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we ask or can imagine. More than you can ask, more than you can imagine are God's dreams for your life. Higher than the heavens are above higher than the heavens are above the earth are his ways, are his thoughts for you.
Thank you so much, panelists, for your intentional feedback, your intentional words of hope, and we'll talk in a few minutes. Well, Zoom Hope family, here we have it. Another exciting program. I just want to remind you of the ways in which you can interact with this program even after we come off the live session. But before we do that, I would like to give special recognition to our social media crew who have been interacting all throughout this discussion. A very powerful point by Barrington Brennan. He said, the founder of Wendy's, Dave Thomas, who became a billionaire, regretted he did not complete high school, although he had become a billionaire. Therefore, in the 1990s, he earned a GED. Dave Thomas realized that he needed the college degree and the university degree people to run his business, and he needed to be on top of them. So we can remember that the rich and the famous, they too need education. Here we say, we see Shakara Green says, superb panelists, thanks for sharing. She also comments on Brittany, great point, Brittany. Down the naysayers, Lady Ash says, remember, never give up, remember your why. Thank you, Brittany. Another point from Colin here, it says, challenge yourself to fulfill your purpose. Thank you, Colin. And David, his point was, the dream from the dream giver cannot be taken away. And finally, Barrington comes back and says, wonderful program. Note, importantly, education and faith. And faith they are identical twins. They are identical twins. So thank you, social media contributors. Thank you, Zoom Hope family. Please remember to contact us on our social media handles, to visit our website and view the content, but most importantly, infuse hope to those around you each day. I am Kevin Stepp, your host for today and your engineer on the regular program. Have a wonderful rest of the day.